So we're now recording the video, audio is going, and I'm going to dive straight into it. And oh, geez, and of course my throat is going to give me the shits. So we'll see how we go with it.
I won't be able to match you.
Just remember, when the podcast comes out, I'll edit out all my coughing and spluttering. And
oh, but you'll leave mine in.
Yeah, but I'll leave yours in. I've always got to make myself sound good.
It's fine. Just sounds like I've got COVID.
Here we go. Hi, I'm Tyson. Oh, fuck, that was terrible. I didn't like that. I tell you, I reckon if I did a video of all the mistakes I made that I didn't cut out of other things, it'd just be a whole pile of videos of F. I lose it all the time. Here we go. No, it was too loud. It was just too loud from my end. Whew, killed my ears. Here we go. You ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, I'm Tyson Franklin. Oh.
Haven't been out in a while.
Oh, no. This is what happens when you're stuck in your house too much. Right. Here we go. This could just be its own separate video.
Don't know how you expect to get a sensible conversation out of me.
Oh, well, I don't know either now. Here we go.
This waffling's infectious, I can tell you.
Okay. This time. We're going to nail it this time. Ready? Don't make me laugh. Okay. Here we go. No, I can't do it. Okay. This one, I'm going to do it this time. Here we go. Hi, I'm Tyson Franklin, and welcome to this week's episode of the Podiatry Legends podcast. Podcast designed to help you feel, see, and think differently about the podiatry profession. My guest today is Lindsey Ebbs from Lindsey Ebbs Podiatry. And today, Lindsey lives in Whitby, which is, I've written it down here, the top seaside destination in the UK. Well, it was prior to COVID. At the moment, it's a little bit quiet. And we're going to talk about the art of waffling. So, Lindsey, how are you doing today?
I'm good, thank you.
Well, I'm glad we got through that introduction. We had a few giggles beforehand. So you're losing it. You still lost it, haven't you? No,
I'm there. I'm here. I'm absolutely here.
Okay, that's fantastic. So the art of waffling. Now, people might be going, what do you mean by waffling? Can you explain the term waffling?
Waffling? I suppose, I don't know, is it a global term or is it just a UK or a Yorkshire term? I'm not quite sure. For me, it's just somebody who waffles on about whatever subject that takes your fancy.
So, and it's not just verbal, this can also be written.
Oh, the written waffle.
The written waffle.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
So because how it came about, we're in a group together and we were talking about writing newsletters, and then I think it started because you were talking about what title should you call your newsletter, and I think that's the first time the word waffling came up.
Well, I started doing the newsletters in about March, April last year, when obviously COVID hit the first time round, and consequently we're in a very different situation. Well, a similar situation for us now. But I realised that the only way to sort of contact everybody, all the patients that we had, was to write to them, really. And a lot of people were shielding, so they weren't coming out. So it, we're still doing emergency clinics, but it wasn't the same because obviously you're all PPE'd up, so you don't really get a chance to chat anymore. So I thought we'd start with a newsletter. So I started off with just a bit of what was happening in clinic, and then it's like, well, what do I do? And then Sue, the other podiatrist, what does she do? And before you know it, you've almost got, well, sort of War and Peace on waffle. And
a lot of podiatrists, though, because I talk about newsletters a lot, that I feel every podiatry business should have a newsletter for their podiatry business. And a lot of people think, I don't know what to write. So, but it's when you only need to put a little bit of thought into it, and it's not hard to put a few things together.
Well, I just write it as if I'm talking to the person that I'm expecting for them to read it, if you like, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So although it's just written down, I visualize the person in front of me. So it's like having a telephone conversation. You are speaking to the person, but you don't actually see them. Well, the written word is just that, is you are speaking to that person or telling them whatever information you want to tell them, but there's a bit of a time delay and it's obviously written.
That's really good advice though, because when let me just grab something for a sec. Since we're on the video, when I wrote this book, it's no money. When I wrote this book, it's no secret there's money in podiatry. A Podiatrist's Guide to Earning More, Working Less, and Enjoying What You Do Each Day. The author that was helping me, who had written a whole pile of books beforehand, when I was getting advice from him, he said to me, picture the ideal podiatrist you'd like to read that book sitting in front of you. And when you write, don't write like you're trying to talk to everybody, write like you're talking to that ideal person and they're right in front of you and it's just a conversation, which is why when people read this, they know it's not, may not be the best written book in the world, but it's written just in a common language. So you do your newsletters exactly the same way.
Yeah, I do. And of course, obviously each time you do one, you sort of grow in a bit more confidence and you just think, oh, well, you know, some patients wanted to hear about the dogs because I rescue dogs and some didn't. Some wanted to hear about what my, you know, boys do, and some just wanted to know what was happening in the clinic. So I sort of filtered it out into sections. So you could jump to whatever section you wanted and got whatever you want out of it, I suppose, at the end of the day. I mean, there were some unsubscribers at the end of the day. That's fine because it's not everybody's cup of tea.
I reckon it's fantastic when people unsubscribe. It really is. Because I'll do my newsletter, it's only short, it goes out every week, and every single time, because usually when people join the Podiatry Business Owners Club, I get their email address. So their email address will go into my database, and then by default, they'll get my newsletter. Every time I send one out, there must be at least one person will unsubscribe. And every time they unsubscribe, I just go, great. Because I'm thinking, if what I put in the newsletter isn't of any interest to you, then we're never going to work together. So it doesn't really make too much difference. So, yeah.
I mean, I recognise it's, you know, I mean, my life isn't the most exciting at the moment, as is everybody else's. But in some respects, it's quite nice for people to know that I am just the same as everybody else.
Mm.
You know, I haven't got this exciting lifestyle that, you know, just because I go to work every day and come back. And I just think, well, maybe people would like to know that my garden is quite unkempt. I haven't had time to do it. You know?
Hey, do you look back at your original newsletters, like some of the early ones you did? Do you look back at them now and go, oh, wow, I have really grown and evolved since that first one?
I try not to look at them because I can't believe I actually sent them out. But I mean, I did.
That's the point, though. The point is, it's, remember when we were doing the 12-week reboot, I spoke about the OODA loop, and it was about, observing it, and then you go through these other steps, and at the end it's taking action. And a lot of people, they just don't pull the trigger. You need to take action so that they can loop back to the observation part. You see what results you get before you can then do it again. And a lot of people, that they want to do that newsletter, but they don't take action just to get the first one out, even if it's a shocker, just get it out there.
Well, I'm sure it is. But yeah, I mean, quite a few people quite enjoyed it and they liked hearing about the dogs and and that's absolutely fine. And then you just find other things to talk about because, like I say, sometimes it's the small stuff. I mean, especially at the moment with COVID, is you're right about stuff that probably you wouldn't have done a year ago because things have changed now. What is important now wasn't important then, and vice versa. So that's how I started writing the newsletters. And then, because obviously we've been lucky enough being podiatrists to work.
So I'll just go back one step. While you've had, when the newsletter's been coming out and you've had feedback from patients who have said, oh, I like this article, I like that. Was it any of their feedback that you sort of went, oh, I could write on that gave you other ideas on what to put in the newsletter, or maybe some things to take out of a newsletter?
Yeah, there was stuff. I mean, some people, didn't like, if you don't like dogs, then you're not going to read the dog section.
True.
If you don't like children, then you're not going to want to know what my children do. If you're not really interested in clinic, well, then you maybe like the dog section. So it's you pick and choose, you cherry pick what you want out of newsletters at the end of the day. It's like I say, it's a bit of everything. for hopefully for most people to read. But at the end of the day, yeah, for some people it's not what they want to read, so they don't.
Yeah, which is why it can't be all clinical, because if it's all clinical, some people are going to go, well, this is boring, and not be interested. Whereas if you have something about dogs, a recipe, maybe some travel, a business in your town, just something like that, then it's the variety that keeps people coming back.
Yeah, well, that's what led me on to the next bit, I suppose, while I was doing my own newsletters. But what I did realise is the fact that having patients in clinic, because obviously we have been treating patients that obviously have got businesses, what things that they were actually doing to actually just survive, if you like, having to flip their businesses or diversify them into a point where I thought, oh, well, this is really interesting. I wonder if other people know about that. If I find it interesting, will everybody else? And that's how. So one of my patients, I just put it to them and said, "How about? Would you mind being my guinea pig?" So they were, and obviously people did like it because it obviously got a lot of reads, and it was like, oh, well, that's good, because what they're doing is trying to survive in this pandemic, and they are changing things around, and they've got a lot of staff, so it's a huge responsibility when you've got staff at the moment, isn't it? So that was that. And that went out, and that was quite interesting. I thought, oh, well, I can do this every month with the newsletter. I can interview, virtually, businesses or projects that were going on in the local vicinity. So that's how that bit started.
Can I just ask you, what's the population of your town, just so people can get an idea of the surrounding area?
It's about 36,000.
Okay, so it's a good-sized regional area.
Well, yeah, it has a town, but it obviously has a lot of villages and a big sort of rural community, if you like. So, yeah, it's more Whitby and district, I suppose. But
okay.
Yeah, it does. It has decent population, if you like. It's not a hamlet.
No, but the reason I asked that is so when you're actually were writing about a local business, a lot of people in the town would probably know who that local business is.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but they may not know some of the backstory or what they were doing now.
That's right.
Which is the
point.
Important part.
And I just think, as podiatrists, because we do get to chinwag on a daily basis, as well as doing our job, is that you realise actually you have access to information that maybe other people don't. How would they? How would people know what goes on behind the scenes? You don't ask, do you? So I found myself, just being interested in. I mean, I was interested, so I thought, well, hopefully, if I'm interested, other people will be interested as well. And there were a lot. So I just thought, well, that's great, because then hopefully that'll raise that profile of that business, and then people can know what's going on. And when things get to lift again, hopefully they'll support the business that is trying to flip itself and diversify.
So the other important part about you interviewing the business too is you now have a relationship with that business. It's now recorded history that you have a relationship. You didn't interview it. To me, I always say it's the same thing when I do a podcast. Every single person I have on this show, I now have recorded documentation of a relationship with that person, even if it was only for an hour. But for some reason, having someone on a podcast or interviewing someone in a newsletter, I know the relationship is a little bit stronger.
Well, yeah, I suppose it's. Of course, you don't think about these things when you're starting stuff up. No. You just think, oh, that sounds a good idea. Let's do that. See how that goes.
Let's give that a shot and see what happens.
Yeah, and I sort of half thought, well, part of me, I mean, we're just podiatrists, part of me, your little voice in the, stay in lane, you're just a podiatrist. And you think, well, nobody else is doing this. Nobody else is recognising it. And plus the fact, we are still businesses. We may be podiatrists, but we are still business owners. We understand, if you don't earn enough to pay out, then there's a problem.
Yeah.
So you need that lift. So, sometimes you forget you've got your medical head on, whereas actually your business head is also on. So that's where I can relate, I suppose, to other businesses, thinking, well, yeah, they're doing everything they can to get through it, just like we all are.
That's a really good point. I think some people forget, as soon as you open up your own business, you are now a business owner. You are still a podiatrist, but you are now a business owner. You're no different to the butcher shop down the road. Different
Absolutely.
service, but you're still a business. And I like what you said too about staying in, you can just staying in your own lane. Whereas, remember that game that video game Frogger?
Oh, you.
And the frog had to jump from these different logs or get past highways and
Oh, right, yeah.
things that go past, and you're trying to get hit. Now, you could stay in your own lane playing Frogger and just stay there constantly, but you'll never ever win the game by staying in your own lane. You have to take risks and try different things and jump into different lanes, and then finally get into it, and then you finally win the game. And I think business is very similar to like Frogger. You don't want to get squashed, but there's no point just staying safe. There's no benefits just staying in your own lane. You've got to try different things, which is what you've done by interviewing other businesses.
Well, that's it. I mean, you always expect somebody to say, oh, well, you're just a podiatrist. What are you doing that for? You're not a journalist and you're not this. And I think, no, I'm not. I'm absolutely not. But I'm in a very privileged position of people talking to me on a daily basis. And it's that talking to you about whatever that you suddenly think, wow, that's amazing.
Were you a good writer?
No.
Would you say that you were a good writer?
No, awful. Absolutely. Do you know what? That's the irony of it all this. I was talking to my sister about it a couple of weeks ago. And yeah, I mean, I can write medical blogs because they're just fact, aren't they?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's what you just, well, I was going to say you try and translate it into layman's language so it's easy for people to understand. But apart from being a translator of medical language to layman's language, I wouldn't say not. But I was absolutely appalling at English. It was my worst subject. I was a science girl.
Yeah, it was
I
my
hated
worst
it.
one too. My brother said to me when I wrote the book, "Did you send a copy to your English teacher?" She didn't believe it. She would not believe that you actually wrote a book. And he said the same thing when I wrote the book. He says, "There's no way you wrote this book." And when he read it, he went, "Yeah, I can tell you wrote it." He said, "It's got your humor all the way through it." So, but
exactly.
So you don't need to be a great writer to start putting this stuff.
You don't. You don't. You absolutely don't. And I mean, if anybody had said to me, 20, 30 years ago, or 40 years ago, however long it was now I was at school, this is what you'd be doing. I mean, you've got to be kidding me. It's just that, yeah, not where I expected to be. And not that I'm a literary genius. Sorry?
No, but somebody hearing this, they don't know what the next stage has been. It's not just your newsletter. And people in the car driving now are going, okay, so she did a newsletter. What makes you think that she wouldn't be doing that? But from interviewing those businesses, you got picked up by some other companies that you now write for.
Yeah, I know.
Which is pretty awesome. I read one of I looked at one of your articles today. Igloos in, is it Gothland?
Gothland. Yeah, Gothland. Well, it used to be Aidensfield, actually. I don't know whether you ever watched the Heartbeat programs in Australia.
Boom, 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 boom. Did it used to have the music for the Buddy Holly?
Like the 70s, yeah, 60s, it's 50s, 60s, yeah. Right. Anyway, I mean, it was written from a book, and obviously is based on in Gothland, but obviously to other people would know it as Aidensfield. So yeah, I mean, they were amazing. Those igloos in Gothland. I mean, that's what that business did to get people in through the door in the little igloos, so they could actually serve them, and people would be safe.
Well, just so that people know, so the Whitby guide, which is an online travel guide, approached you and said, "Hey, we like the way that you write. Can you write for us?" So you started writing,
giggling
this online.
I started giggling.
Yeah,
started giggling and saying, "Yeah, right. Of course you do." And yeah, I ended up having a phone call with them in the end because I sort of half didn't quite believe it, really, thinking, you've got to be kidding me. Because I'm not a literary genius in any shape or form. But yeah, so I spoke to them and they said, "Oh no, we like the way you write, they like your style, like, obviously you know people and businesses, and that's absolutely great. That's just what we want. So I just thought, well, yeah, that's fine. I don't know how long it'll last for. I mean, once people get going and moving again, maybe there'll be no interest in the written word anymore. Do you know what I mean? It's that people get back to a normalish life, and that'll be the end of that. But actually, it's the moment in time. It's useful now.
I think it'll pick up
So
though, because when I jumped online and looked at the Whitby guide online, and you said it's an online travel thing, and at the moment there's not a lot of travel going on in
yes,
Whitby, yet they're still actually producing information about the area. I think once COVID's finished and people start moving around and traveling more, it will actually get more popular. They'll probably want you to write more.
maybe not. I mean, I don't look at it. I mean, I don't see this as a second career in any shape or form, or third career in my case.
Podiatry still pays the bills.
It absolutely does, yeah. That is my chosen job, and actually I still enjoy it. I have fallen in and out of love with it over the years, but actually I happen to be, really enjoying it at the moment. Twilight years probably. But so yeah, I write for the Whitby Guide once a month, and I pick a business and decide what we're going to talk about, really. And so I have one every month that's obviously ready to come out. And
do you use the same business in your newsletter, or do you pick a different business for your newsletter for your podiatry business to the Whitby Guide?
No, it comes out in my newsletter first.
Okay.
And then it goes into the Whitby Guide.
Oh, good. So you're not having to write two articles. It's the same article that you're moving.
Yes.
Maybe it's edited slightly different in the Whitby Guide.
It's pretty much as it is, yeah.
Okay. And then when I went and had a look at it, then they have a link on there that has your name. When people click on that name, straight away it goes to your podiatry business.
Yeah, it does.
So have you had any patients at the moment say that they read it in the Whitby Guide and not in your newsletter?
No, not that I'm aware of, or not that I've said. We usually talk about other things at that point.
Yeah.
I spend all my day waffling. I can waffle about anything. And once I've written it, it's like done. I haven't thought about it after that. It's like
okay.
Yeah,
then
we have interesting days in clinic. We do.
But you told me, and then from that, you're now writing for another online place. Was it Travel?
Well, actually, yeah. Travel and Trek is a really interesting travel company, and that is an international travel company. And the guy that has it is a guy called Terry, and he used to be in the army. And when he left the army, obviously created this travel company to very far-flung places, very interesting, very unique. It's not something that it's not the same as like going to Spain, a family holiday. So you go to the Sahara Desert, if you're allowed now. So when I spoke to him a few years back, actually, when I was doing some research on feet traveling, if you like, and the problems that they get, and can we do anything to prevent them or help them or whatever. So I chatted into for ages a couple of years ago, and he said, "Oh, just let me know when you're sorting with the other business that I've got online." And I realised that when I was writing for all the local businesses, that actually that Travel and Trek probably wouldn't have much content on their website. And I thought, well, we have lots of content about podiatry stuff and, shoes and gaiters and all that sort of stuff. So I contacted him again. And of course, a couple of years ago, he gave me the time. He's obviously, the director of the business, but he was really kind. And he obviously gave me the time of day. And I just thought, well, you remember people like that give you the time of day.
Oh, definitely.
You just think, to me, he was just really nice and a really interesting guy. And so I contacted him recently and I said, look, I realise obviously that your business is maybe not doing as well as it should now. You're not travelling. Can I help you with any content for your website? And he went, oh, well, yeah, of course you can. So yeah, we've been helping him out with some content to go on. So for those people who do travel or go up mountains or wherever they extreme sort of holidays that they do, that hopefully our information should get them through in one piece.
Okay, so pretty much you've become a guest blogger. from the Art of Waffling, and then writing about businesses in your own newsletter, and then doing it for the Whitby Guide, and now the Travel and Trek. But you approached them. You are now a professional guest blogger. You actually approached them, and they said yes.
Yeah. Well, they could always say no.
And you wouldn't have died
always say no.
if they said no. It wouldn't have killed you.
Well, no, I would have maybe crawled under a stone for a day, but that would have been it. So, the stone of shame. But no, at the end of the day, you suddenly realise that, you know, we forget as podiatrists what a skill set we have.
I know.
Do you know what I mean? We just do. And a lot of podiatrists say, oh, you know, people don't know what we do. And I think, well, whose fault's that?
Oh, that shits me when I hear that. When people go, oh, yep. Yeah, I wish, because when people join the Podiatry Business Owners Club, I'll have 3 questions. Yeah, the name, the email address, how long they've been like in their own business, or even if they're thinking about having their own business, they can still join in. But one of the things asked is, what is your biggest frustration? And a really common frustration is podiatrists saying, I wish people in my area understood what we did more or respected what we did more. And I find that sort of not frustrating at that particular person, but it's all about just putting yourself out there and sharing the knowledge that we have in as many places as you can. But we keep thinking, because they're not just going to learn it through osmosis.
No, people don't know what we do. They're not mind readers. And I just think, well, at the end of the day, if we put stuff out, people can read it or they can't. You know, they choose to do it or not. But we have a skill set that we have. And I just think, well, you know, yes, my waffling for my business is around Whitby. Well, I can relate to them as a business. Whereas actually the Travel and Trek company, I can relate to not only the business, but actually people walking in the Sahara and actually the problems that their feet are actually going to entail, or going up a mountain, and actually how we can help prevent problems starting. I mean, we do a lot with the army as well, because obviously they get huge problems. So it's using that information that you have and adapting it. You're translating your knowledge into a layperson's domain. And that, for me, is our responsibility to do. If we want people to recognise what we do, then we need to do that. Because how else are they going to know?
So if somebody's listening to this now, would your advice be to them to approach different places and say, hey, I want to write for you? Whether it was there might be a local shoe store that actually produces a newsletter. That they say, hey, I can provide an article. Because I used to write for, they used to be called Cumps shoes, but then they changed to Zierra. So I used to write a monthly article for them every month for a number of years. And it was surprising where their newsletters ended up. And people would still find me through those newsletters. So it's just putting yourself out there.
Oh, do you know, yeah, it is. Because you can think about all the businesses that might benefit from your knowledge.
Yeah, you know, there'd be a lot.
Absolutely. So, you know, a little bit of waffling can go a long way. Talk about the year that, I just look at the last year and I think, oh my goodness, yes, I'm writing, I'm blogging, I'm doing whatever. And, you know, now I have a piece of equipment, Marco, the robotic laser, that I just introduced into the practice this year. He's now got his own Instagram and Facebook. And of course, consequently, he has conversations, and he's been flipping pancakes today and ended up with a frying pan on his head. I never thought for 1 minute that I would be talking about this stuff, you know, that you just think, well, why not?
Yeah.
Why not? Why not just, this time last year, I would have never have gone down that route. But now I just think people, well, I'm sure patients think I've lost the plot. I'm sure they do.
But I think some people, I think some podiatrists, they're afraid to write because they think if I write something and I put it out there, people will read it and then they'll judge me.
And they might.
And they might. But the thing is, I think a lot of podiatrists are afraid what other podiatrists will think of what they write. And the thing behind all that, it doesn't matter what they think. They're not your patient. It's more so you should always be writing for the patient, not writing for the other podiatrist down the road who may read your article.
Correct.
Yeah, because I used to write some of the articles I wrote. If another podiatrist read them, they'd probably read that and think, is this person even qualified? Does he know what he's talking about? But sometimes when you break something down to the simplest terms and you want it to be understood by the patient, you can't explain it in a lot of detail. You've got to make it sound really simple, or use an example or an analogy or something that probably is not right, but it actually makes sense to the patient and they can understand it. But people are afraid to write that way.
Well, yeah, I mean, in fact, sometimes, I mean, because I deal with patients all day and every day, I sometimes forget the technical language that I'm supposed to know.
Yeah.
I'm
exactly the same.
I use the layman's language and I'm thinking, oh, hang on a minute, that's not its name. What's its Latin name again? And I do it all the time.
If there's a bunch of podiatrists all together who are like real technical podiatrists, and you happen to walk in the conversation and they were going off and I hear all these big terms that I can't spell, I very quickly sort of turn and go, let's go and find the group who have forgotten all the big words, and we just talk in layman's terms. Which
exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, does it matter?
That's how you do it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I've got to the stage in life now where, it's quite nice really that, it really doesn't matter anymore. And whatever people think of me, I'm sure that, I can't change that. But hopefully I look at it and I think, well, the articles I've written for businesses and or feeds or companies, whether it's information podiatry or not, that you think, well, is it going to help one person?
Yeah.
That'll do for me.
That's interesting what you just said then about your age, and you and I are about the same age. So
I think so. But let's not tell anybody.
Let's not tell anyone, but I think we're around the same age. And I feel the same way, that now when I do things, I have that don't give a shit attitude. And it's not that it's not don't give a shit as in arrogant don't give a shit. It's just like, I do what I do, and if people like it, they like it. And if they don't like it, they don't like it. What they think is none of my business. And you've heard that quote before. So do you think younger podiatrists coming through now should not be arrogant, but they should just have that sort of opinion too? Don't wait until you're mature like us to all of a sudden realize it doesn't matter what other people think. You just do what you do and do what makes you happy as well.
Oh yeah, that's a given. And I think then, it all just gets so much better. I mean, I couldn't have done this 20 years ago. I couldn't have done it a year ago. I don't think I would have even entertained the thought a year ago. I honestly don't think I would have done. I mean, it's not something that's been brewing. It's not a burning desire to write. It's just something that happened. But then you think, well, COVID is a friend and an enemy at the same time.
I think a lot of people have got more skills post-COVID than prior to that, because they had a bit of spare time on their hands as well.
Some people maybe did. I don't think I've ever worked so hard.
But sometimes when COVID first came in, like in Australia, and they had the shutdowns, where a lot of people just had a lot more spare time because patients didn't know what was going on, and everyone was in a panic mode, and things got really quiet for a couple of weeks, and then all of a sudden things built back up again. And I said right at the beginning that if you finish COVID with the same skill set that you went into COVID with, then that was a wasted opportunity. I think you should always be evolving and trying to learn something new. Even if it's not writing, it could be recording audio. It could be go and do a one-day workshop about learning how to do better videos, which I probably need to do.
You and me both.
If anyone's watching this video, they go, don't edit anything. And the beginning was so bad. Or not, the beginning wasn't bad. We stuffed up the beginning so many times, but it's on the video if people want to watch it. I think I actually dropped the F-bomb.
Have you videoed it? Oh, I didn't.
Yeah, it was all videoed at the beginning. And I think I dropped the F-bomb accidentally when I did my first intro and I stuffed it up, and then we both laughed. Anyway, back on to you.
Just because it's clearly all about me.
So, well, it is. You're the guest. So where do you see this going in the future? Do you think you will continue to do more writing? If opportunities arise, you will keep heading down that path? And do you enjoy it?
Well, yeah, I do actually. I enjoy, Yeah, I do actually. I do. I enjoy it. I don't. Well, enjoy it more than I thought I was going to enjoy it. And I really enjoy the fact that people are liking other businesses and what they do. I just think, oh my goodness, I've had a small bit of that, that it's promoted their business or it's risen their profile or whatever, and that's really quite a nice feeling. But then I just think, actually, I've got all this knowledge in my head over the years and the experience, and I just think it would be so nice to get rid of it and share it with everybody. It's just like, here you go, it's all there for you. Help yourself.
But it's true though. It's I remember when I first graduated I graduated in 1988. So
oh, me too.
yeah, that's why I know we're around the same age.
That was a good year.
And it was a great year actually. And when I remember the following year, there was this triathlon magazine came out. So I wrote to them and said, "Oh, I was wondering if you're interested in a podiatry article." And they said, "Yeah, that'd be fantastic. 1,500 words, please." And I think they paid me for it as well. And I was not a writer. Like I said, I didn't pass English at school. And all of a sudden I went, oh, now I have to write this thing. But I must admit, it was really painful writing it. I got other people to proofread it because it probably wasn't very good. But I sent it off. And when it actually got published, and then I went and bought 10 copies of this magazine so I could give it out to family and friends. But I've still got a copy of it sitting up here on my shelf. And I remember the article was called "The Agony of Defeat." And of course, feet was FWT, yeah, original. But I remember when that came out and I looked at it and went, wow, I'm published. I'm a published person here. Now I know everything now is online, but it's the same, you get the same feeling from it, I think, when you see it elsewhere.
Well, yeah, it is a bit strange. It is a bit strange, actually. I do. Yeah, that novelty hasn't worn off yet.
No.
Yeah, it is actually. I'm quite enjoying it, which
and
it's something I never thought I would. Well, yes, the written word is there forever, isn't it? Well, that could be a good thing and a bad thing, of course.
Well, unlike magazines from 30 years ago, there's probably none of them around except the one I have on my shelf. But anything that's online, unless the website closes down, it's there for a very, very long time. So it's one of those things that if somebody reads one of your articles, like on the Whitby Guide, and they go, oh, I like that. I like the way she writes. They will find other articles you've written. And then you said you're in a town of 35,000 people. I'm sure some of the people there are reading it and it's promoting your podiatry business. You don't realize that they're doing all this after hours while you're asleep.
I know. People do, don't they? They read at all times of the day and night. And of course, all across the world. I know the Whitby Guide does go, I mean, it's got a big audience, well, all over the place, because essentially it's for people that visit Whitby. So, obviously that they know what's going on here. And hopefully when they do visit here, then they'll visit the businesses that have been promoted. Do you know what I mean? It's all, right, hopefully it'll all be good stuff for them.
Well, it's just putting
yourself it is.
And
I didn't. Well, yes, I did. I mean, I didn't obviously think that it would end or be halfway through like it is at the moment. You don't start stuff thinking that this is going to be how it's going to be. It just grows arms and legs, like most things do. But I just didn't think it would grow arms and legs so quickly.
I think it's just important to not die wondering. Like if you have an idea of could I write here or could I do this, or even if you're thinking about doing a talk somewhere. Don't I ever tell you when I did the talk in Powell River in British Columbia? So Powell River is a little town, 13,000 people. It's a mill town. We were going there to visit some friends. So I said to him, do you have a Chamber of Commerce or anything like that? He said, yeah. Okay. So I thought, I'm going to make my trip tax deductible. So I wrote to the Chamber of Commerce and said, I didn't write. I sent an email. When you say you write something these days, we mean email. Anyway, I sent them an email. I said, I'm going to be in town. Yeah, I've written a book. And I just mentioned a couple of things. Do you have a lunch on that week? If you did, I'd love to come in and talk for 15 minutes. Anyway, they wrote back to me and said, no, we don't have a lunch on that week, but we will put one on if you want to speak and we'll give you 45 minutes. I went, okay. So next thing I turned up and I said to my friend, how many people usually turn up to the Chamber of Commerce meetings? He said, about 12. Well, okay, it'd be a small little group, but it's still a talk. I don't mind. I rock up there, 50 people. The mayor was there to meet me. All of a sudden, it got around town. There was this really important speaker from Australia who was touring the United States and Canada, just happened to be visiting their small town. And next thing, and my friend is just shaking the head going, little do they know it's you. But if I hadn't have put myself out there in the first place, I never would have got that opportunity. And it was such a good group of people, and I had so much fun putting the talk together and getting to meet the mayor and the deputy mayor and getting photos. And yeah, so it's like you're writing. It's put yourself out there and see what happens. Throw mud, see what sticks.
Well, it's true. I mean, it's uncomfortable. It is uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But actually, yeah, it's worth doing some educated waffle, as my patient said the other day. Your waffle is educated. That'll do for me.
That's a good idea. Instead of calling this the art of waffling, I'm going to call it educated waffling.
Yeah.
Sounds more intelligent. Educated waffling.
I know. Who'd have thought?
Okay, so before we finish up, have you got one final tip for anyone that's listening to this? Have you got a final tip that they can, when the recording ends, they just go, thank you, Lindsay, that was awesome. What do you got for us?
Oh, not too much pressure then.
No, and I forget to tell people right when we start, oh, by the way, I'm going to ask for a final tip.
Oh, lovely. Thank you.
I usually just throw you on the spot, but in the podcast, I will edit that out. So it'll sound like bang like that you just, hang on. I think I've got a sound effect here. No, not working. Damn it. It's not working. Anyway.
Of course it's not. You rigged it for me.
No. Well, the thing is I can, I'll edit that out of the podcast and therefore it'll say, so Lindsay, have you got a final tip that you want to share with people? And there'll be like a 2-second pause and bang, you'll come out with it, which you're about to do right now because I've given you time to think about it.
A tip. If you're going to waffle, which, you can, because I know everybody's got a little bit of waffle in them, is, especially now it's COVID and things may change, obviously, eventually, hopefully soon. But have a look at the businesses around you. Just look in the directory or go online and just look at what they're doing. And if they are trying to, do something, then raise a profile. Or if it's a podiatry related one that you think that our information actually can help somebody, just ping them a letter and just say, can I help you? Can I actually help? Can I do something? Can I put some content on your website for you or whatever? It doesn't have to be mind-blowing. Yeah, it doesn't have to be mind-blowing. It just has to be a little bit of educated waffle that people can understand.
Yeah, and when you say letter, you mean email. We just went through all that.
Hey, look, we live in Whitby. There's nothing wrong with getting there's nothing wrong with getting a letter through the door.
I was just picturing a pile of people around our age going, oh yeah, it's got the pen and paper. I'm going to write them a nice note.
Well, it is going to be people of our age, isn't there?
There is actually, surprisingly, all age groups listen to this podcast, which is great. So there seems to be something for everybody, and which I know everyone keeps coming back each week, keeps them entertained. That's the main thing. And we're educating. We're doing educated waffling at the moment.
Well, yeah. We see I can spread my waffle far and wide.
And I like the way you also, when you're talking, how you pause between waffles.
Do I?
Yeah, you do. When you're talking, you have a very certain way of talking. Pause just at the right moment for effect.
So, it's probably because my brain's just catching up. The cogs are just moving. But if it sounds like I'm thinking, well, it sounds like I'm thinking about something. We're okay. No. But actually, they're just whirring away.
No, that's okay. So, Lindsay, I want to thank you for coming on the Podiatry Legends podcast, sharing your knowledge, sharing your waffle. If anyone wanted to reach out to you, what's the best way of getting hold of you if they have a question at all?
Yeah, well, I'm obviously on Facebook and Instagram. And we have a website, and there's a new, actually, you can, if you want.
Can you tell people the website? You can't just say, we have a website and don't tell them.
We do.
Yeah, we've got a website. You find it.
I know. Lindsey Ebbs Podiatry is the website. And if you want to listen or read my newsletters, there's a sign-up button on the website.
Cool.
So
in the show notes so people can find it. So if they're listening to this, go to my website, tysonfranklin.com, click on podcasts, and you'll find the episode there, and I'll have all the links in the show notes. So therefore they can find it that way as well.
Yeah, and they could have my waffle every month if they really wanted to.
Well, the good idea with reading your waffle will give them an idea. If they want to do something themselves, they can say, okay, so here's an example. Because sometimes it's hard to get other people's newsletters. So they've heard about yours now. Now when they sign up for it, they can go, aha, that's what it is. And they can use it as a guide.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, they'll probably think, oh my God, how many subscribers has she actually got? And how many have unsubscribed?
You might get 500 podiatrists signing up this week, and then 500 unsubscribing the week after. They go, well, we've got the waffle. Now we know what to do. We'll go and do it ourselves. So
they're probably really disappointed.
So Lindsey, thank you for coming on, and I will talk to you again soon.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.